Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Your in-laws sound really greedy, OP. If it's all about helping family, why didn't they help Diane out financially when she needed their support? They didn't support her when it wouldn't benefit them, but now that she's gone, they expect some financial gain from her death? I know grief does weird things to people, but that's just such a screwed up mindset. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Bought an apartment for my sister-in-law to live in. My sister-in-law Diane was a nurse in the Pacific Northwest. She lived in a very HOA city. 15 years ago, she bought herself a small apartment in a new development. It took about 2 years to build. In that time, the price of apartments in that building went up by about 30%. She didn't sell because it was perfect for her. Unfortunately, she was diagnosed with breast cancer about 2 years after she took possession. She really didn't want to move back to Minnesota, so she asked her family for money to keep up with the mortgage. None of them had the money, and her mom really wanted her to move home. I was friends with her before I married her sister. Just friends, nothing more. She asked me for help. I bought the apartment off her. I took over the mortgage. I didn't charge her rent. I paid all the taxes and condo levies. She got enough money from her insurance and a side hustle to live there. My wife knew we were helping her, but we didn't say anything because her mom was pissed that she didn't move home after the diagnosis. Diane passed away last month. She had a hard life for the last decade, but she was happy. When her mom got a copy of the will, she was furious. The apartment's worth a lot of money now. It's in a great building in a good neighborhood. She was expecting the apartment to sell and for there to be money to split up amongst all of her grandchildren. Diane never married and never had kids. Mother-in-law found out about the deal I made with Diane. My wife and I own the apartment outright. After we clear it out and get rid of all of her stuff, we're going to rent it out. The income it'll generate will pay for our retirement in a while, and when we sell it, our kids will have a nice nest egg to help them. But now my mother-in-law told everyone how he took advantage of her daughter in her time of need and stole her apartment, and how Diane would be upset if she knew that we were not sharing all the money from the apartment. It's really starting to bug my wife, and she's saying we should sell it and help out all the nephews and nieces. I showed her a spreadsheet of all of our costs for the apartment. If I subtract all of my costs and all of my lost opportunities for investment, when everything's said and done, the 8 nibblings might get $3,000 each. I said if she wanted, we could give them each that much to get her family not to drop it. Her family says that it's bullcrap, that we should sell the apartment and split it equally. I said I'd be willing to do that in return for each of them paying 1/3 of the money I invested over the last 10 years. They don't think that's fair. My wife's upset and her family's upset, and I'm just trying to be fair to myself. I spent 10 years giving up other investments and toys for myself and helped out Diane instead. And now I'm getting crapped on. Thanks to you, Diane was able to live on her own for as long as possible. And the house is your property, not part of Diana's estate. If her family had helped her over the last 10 years, maybe the inheritance would have been worth fighting over. The family's just upset because they assumed Diane left them an estate they could split amongst themselves. But that's just greedy. I think there's a reason why she didn't tell her family. And our second story. Do you think I'm stupid? The outside part is not crunchy. A little bit of info before we begin. I work at a small bakery inside of a supermarket. Every morning we get freshly baked bread, buns, and cakes delivered from a nearby supermarket because we don't actually have a baking facility to make stuff, and sometimes we encounter issues with the deliveries. Usually if a customer is unhappy with the quality of the bread or cakes, we call and complain to the supermarket that produced it, and afterwards we figure out a solution or compensation for the customer. I've worked here for about a year now, and I've already racked up loads of amazing stories. This is Tales from the Bakery. 1 man, 3 buns. Okay, so today I was working a morning shift with another coworker. Our shift starts at 6:30 a.m. and we have exactly half an hour to get all the delivered items from the warehouse in the basement, move them upstairs to the bakery, put up every single item for display, and prepare the checkout registers. This all goes pretty smooth, and at 7 a.m. the first few customers start moving in. At this point in the morning, we get maybe 1 or 2 customers every 5 minutes. Very chill. At one point, a man comes up to the counter and asks for 3 buns. We have loads of different buns, but the man requests a specific type, which is basically super soft white bread with a crunchy outside. My coworker gets him the buns and he pays before leaving. At this point in the morning, we hardly sell anything but buns, so a customer like that won't be anything out of the ordinary. Around 30 minutes pass and we're starting to get more and more customers. As I'm talking to a customer, I hear my name being yelled from the customer service desk located right next to the bakery. I finish up with my customer, walk over to the desk, and I ask, "What's up?" "Somebody's on the phone. They want to speak with you," says the customer service. At this point, I'm preparing to put on my best customer service voice, even though I've only been awake for just about an hour. I pick up the phone and start talking. "Supermarket name, bakery department, and on speaking. How can I help you?" Couple seconds pass before I finally hear, "Yeah, is this the damn bakery department?" I reply, telling him that yes, this is indeed the bakery. At this point in time, his tone goes from that of somebody asking a question to the tone of somebody who is very angry. "Do you idiots even bake your bread? Why the F did you guys sell me raw bread? It's not like it's supposed to be." I, slightly confused by the situation, tell him that of course our bread is freshly baked. "Listen up, punk. I'm standing here in my living room with 3 effing buns and they're all effing soft as S." Because of the fact that it was my coworker who sold him the buns, I have no idea who this guy is, and I have no idea what he's talking about. I enter investigation mode and start asking him a few questions. "Sir, what kind of buns did you order?" I ask. "I ordered the name of bun." At this point, I realize that he's talking about a bun that's supposed to be super soft and fluffy on the inside and slightly crunchy on the outside. I reply, "Sir, that specific bun is supposed to be soft. That's not a mist." I don't get a chance to finish my sentence before he cuts in. "Do you think I'm stupid? I know how it's supposed to be, but the outside part is not crunchy, you little dip S." I take a few breaths and attempt to come up with a solution. "Sir, if you return to the store with the buns, we will—" I'm again interrupted. "It's not crunchy, do you understand me?" I try again. "Sir, if you can just come down here—" "So you don't believe me? Okay then, dip S. You listen for yourself." At this point, I give my final attempts to de-escalate the situation. Meanwhile, the man starts yelling, "It's not crunchy!" over and over again. I'm just about to hang up when it's all of a sudden the yelling turns into a very muffled, "It's not crunchy!" The audio turns very scratchy, and after about 30 seconds of muffled yelling and complaining, I decide to hang up. Around 10 minutes pass before I'm called up to the customer support desk. I ask what's up, and the customer service representative looks at me strangely and says, "This guy says you broke his phone." I immediately assume that this must be a joke. How could I have broken someone's phone? I've been at work for the past 2 hours. I haven't even used my phone since I arrived. I pick up the phone and I hear this same familiar screaming, however this time it's not muffled anymore. I spend the next 4 minutes listening to screams while slowly putting the pieces together in my head, and once it hit me, I effing lost it. Turns out the guy got so angry because he thought that I didn't believe him, so he pulled one of the buns apart and literally smashed his phone into the bun, hoping I would be able to hear that it's not crunchy. Since the bread inside is so soft and fluffy, it got all into his microphone, which explains the muffled screaming. He was now using a landline to call back to the store. The guy demanded that I pay for the repair of his broken phone, but I passed the call over to a supervisor, mostly because I was having a lot of trouble holding in my laughter. And she told him that it was his own fault and I was not to blame. He was then asked not to call again after he continued to shout at her. Holy cow, that's amazing. Imagine him doing that, standing in his living room, smearing his phone on his bun and yelling, "That's it, not crispy." That's exactly what I imagined when I read that story. And our last story. HOA's trying to ruin my life. So 2 years ago, I bought a condo. Every summer, I guess they do exterior inspections and send you a letter telling you that you have 3 days to fix it. They didn't like my hanging lights on my patio, nor my hanging hammock. I supposedly was not allowed to hang anything from communal property. I also had to repair the deck boards around my patio and repaint the concrete patio floor. Well, I didn't get this letter until a week after the deadline. The day after I got that letter, I found my hammock and lights had all been unscrewed and removed and thrown on the patio floor. They also pulled out a bird's nest that was on the same beam and threw it into a patch of grass, killing the babies. However, they did leave my security camera alone. The camera's placed in such a way you can only see it once you're already on the patio. I have footage of them doing all this in the early hours of the morning. The look of, oh crap, when they realized there was a camera was priceless. I don't think it was actual members of the HOA, probably a couple of the maintenance guys that they contract with. I wrote a letter in response. My points were clear. First, you can't claim my patio as communal property. I'm sure if I went around sitting on everyone's patio, they would have an issue with it. Also, even if it was communal property, then you can't require me to put my own finances into repairing it. But the point stands. Many people have hanging flowers or wind chimes. If my lights and hammock are an issue, I expect that those would be as well. And lastly, I have security footage of their workers tampering with my private property, and if they ever come anywhere near my home again without warning or explanation, I will come down on them with legal force the likes of which they have never seen. Animal Control was already reviewing the footage of the bird's nest to see if any animal cruelty had been committed. I also decided to get reinsured, so I hired a lawyer friend of mine. He wrote a cease and desist letter, so they even put back everything they had ruined and paid a huge fine for the destroyed nest. Brass really does just look cheap and outdated. The nickel looks more solid and well put together. It may not look as formal, but it looks higher quality overall. Also depends on the style of it, of course, but still, F them and their cheap taste. I love that you told them it was outdated. There's nothing like letting some old, busy organizations know that their design ideas are outdated, especially if they try to insist that you change something because they don't like the way it looks, or it ruins the look of the place you're in. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.